Today I'll show you the easiest way to make seeded bread. It's so simple and will give you perfect results every single time. Hi, I'm Sune and I'm a food geek. Seeded bread, in my opinion, it's the best thing since sliced bread. Well, you know what I mean. You can put seeds, nuts, grains, and legumes into your bread, and I implore you to try different combinations and find the one that you love. I prefer to toast my seeds and nuts, but I wouldn't toast grains or legumes. It's not a hard rule, but it seems like they just get tough and don't get much improvement in the taste. An essential part of adding additional things to your bread is to use a soaker. You soak the ingredients so that they can absorb water, so that they won't be sucking water out of your precious dough. Things like nuts are very dense and won't absorb much water, but I guess just put them in the soaker in case of uncertainty. It won't hurt it. It's essential to drain the soaker afterwards so that you remove the water and let it drip out, only to get the absorbed water into your dough. Otherwise, you might be raising the dough's hydration significantly, and it can be challenging to work with. If you're new to this channel, I bake a lot of sourdough bread and I make delicious food from all over the world. If you want to see more of this content, please join me by subscribing and ringing the bell so you won't miss any future videos. The bread that I'm making today consists of 80% bread flour and 20% whole grain rye flour. Feel free to freestyle the whole grain component to whatever flour you like the most. Even low gluten or gluten-free flours will work. The hydration is 80% perfect for the flour I use, but you may want to start lower if your bread flour isn't absorbent. The inoculation is 20%, which is an excellent middle ground. If you are making bread in a tropical setting, you may want to lower it to 10% or even 5% to slow down fermentation. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider becoming a member at Patreon. You can also buy some merch or use the links in the description for tools and ingredients. Those were the words. This is the recipe. There's a link in the description for the written recipe on my website. If you want to toast the seeds or nuts, heat your oven to 180 degrees Celsius, 360 degrees Fahrenheit. Prepare a parchment-lined baking sheet. Then add whatever seeds you would like in the crumb of your bread. There's not really a set amount. Personally, I'm just freestyling it here, but boy, do I love sunflower seeds. Then when the oven is heated, add the pan to the oven. Set a timer for 10 minutes. If at 10 minutes you want them more toasted, go right ahead. When they're toasted to your liking, remove them from the oven. I like to get the seeds in the middle of the parchment paper. And then lift up both sides to use it as sort of a makeshift sling. I pour the hot seeds into a bowl. And pour water over the seeds, enough so that they're all hydrated. The amount is not so important. Leave them for at least 30 minutes to soak. Then when you're ready to mix, remove the water from the seeds by pouring everything into a strainer and let them drain completely. Now it's time to mix the dough. To a medium bowl, add 560 grams of bread flour, 140 grams of rye flour, 14 grams of salt. Mix it to distribute everything. Then add 140 grams of sourdough starter, fed and grown to its peak, 546 grams of water. You may want to divide the water if you're not sure what your bread flour can handle. 430 grams will give you 65% hydration, 469 grams will give you 70% hydration, and 507 grams will give you 75% hydration. Start low if you're unsure, add 39 grams of water to bump to 5% more. Alright, back to the recipe. Add all of the drained seeds right into the water. Then mix with your hand. In the beginning, make sure you get both the starter and the seeds well distributed. Mix until no dry flour remains. Then clean up the bowl. Leave it to rest covered for an hour to develop the gluten. And then it's time to do the first set of stretch and folds. And the dough rests for 30 minutes. Then the second set of stretch and folds. And another 30-minute rest. And then the last set of stretch and folds. Then do a window pane test to see if the dough is sufficiently developed. If your dough doesn't pass the test, it's probably because you're not using a strong enough flour, and it will be difficult to ever get the test to pass. Go ahead with the recipe and you will probably still get a nice bread, albeit maybe not super tall or with an ear. But it's the taste that matters, right? Then put the dough in a bulking container, level the top of the dough, and let it grow 25 to 50%. I put the dough in my proofer set to 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. This speeds up this part of the process. At this temperature, it usually takes me 2.5 to 3 hours to reach 25%. Then when the dough has finished fermentation, I divide the dough into 2 equally sized pieces. Then I pre-shape each piece of dough into a light ball. Then I let them rest on the counter for 20 minutes to relax the gluten, which will make it easier to finish the shaping. First I'll show you how to shape a batard, a cigar-shaped bread, and afterward I'll show you how to shape a boule, a round bread, which is way easier. But first prepare a dish towel with the seeds that you want to put on the outside of the bread. Put a good layer of seeds on the dish towel. If you aren't generous, you won't get that luscious look. They're not wasted, I'll show you how to recycle them afterward. Dust the top of the dough with a bit of flour. Flip the dough onto the work surface, then tease the dough into a rectangle. Fold up the bottom, fold both sides into the middle, and then fold the top down and tuck it into the sides. Roll up the dough and seal the seam at the bottom. Cover the swirls on the ends, and make it look pretty with the scraper if it needs it. Then mist the top of the dough with a bit of water. And flip the dough onto the seeds. Let the side hit the seeds first and then roll it all the way to the other side. Then just roll it around in the seeds to get an even coverage. Lift up the dough so that each end also gets covered. Then grab your Banneton, lift the dough into the Banneton, and do a stitch to tighten the dough. If that looked way too complicated for you, I'll show you how to make a round bread. I did this for a very long time before I got into batards, if I'm being honest. And I am. Flip the dough onto your work surface, stretch and fold the dough from each direction, north, south, east, and west, to create tension on the part of the dough that's facing the table. Then flip the dough back over and pull the dough over the table using your scraper, creating more and more tension. Then mist the top of the dough with water. Roll the dough onto the seeds. And just generally roll it around to get it really covered. This really isn't a science. Move the dough to the Banneton and stretch the sides towards the middle to create more tension. Put both loaves in the fridge for at least 8 hours, but up to 48 hours should be fine. And now for the seed cleanup. I use a different container for this than my general poppy seed container, but the next time I want to put this kind of seed on the outside of another bread, I have these sitting around just waiting. Fold the dish towel up, lift it up just like you did with the seeds out of the oven, pour them into the jar. Voila. When it's time to bake, heat your oven to 230 degrees Celsius, 450 degrees Fahrenheit with a Dutch oven inside. Let it heat for 30 minutes after the oven comes up to temperature. Once the oven is hot, grab the loaf out of the fridge. Dust the bottom with rice flour to help it slide easily off the peel. Flip it onto the peel. Score the dough. And then take the lid off the Dutch oven. Put the dough inside. Put the lid back on and bake for 25 minutes. Just before the 25 minutes are up, prepare the other loaf. Dust it. Flip it. Score it. And then take out the first bread and put it beside the Dutch oven. Then grab the other loaf and put it into the Dutch oven. Put the lid on. And then bake it for 25 minutes. Then grab the first loaf out of the oven and put it on a wire rack. Remove the top of the Dutch oven and bake for 25 minutes more. Then take out the other loaf, put it on a wire rack and let both loaves cool down to room temperature. Alright, want to see the crumb? Okay, let me show you just how delicious this bread is.
It doesn't have to be complicated to add inclusions to your bread. Adding the seeds while mixing the dough give you an excellent dispersion. You can even make a seeded no-knead bread because you don't need stretch and folds or other methods to help distribute the inclusions. Adding seeds to the outside of the bread can be super gorgeous and give a nice texture to each slice of the bread. Sometimes I like to preview what you can expect on the inside of the bread, and other times I'm a bit more devious and will put one seed on the outside and maybe a mix of seeds on the inside. It's time you spice up your bread with your favorite seeds, the easy way. I hope you learned something today. See you next time.